In this video, I'm going to do a full review on the Microsoft Surface RT tablet. So let's get to it. So as you can see on the device here, the date is October 23rd. The year is 2013. So it's not quite a year after this device launched. Unfortunately, I never got around to posting a review on the Surface RT. So I thought it would be a great opportunity to actually take a look back on the device a year after launch. Now, when the Surface RT first launched, I thought this would be the tablet for me. Now, for some people, tablets are fine. They could live within tablets, use them, work with them, even be productive with them. I personally can't. I always feel like I'm moving through molasses when I'm using a tablet. And that's not because I use slow tablets, it's just because you can't really multitask and do the things you would normally do on a regular computer. Tablets are basically mobile operating systems. They're blown up phones, basically. Now I know on an iPad you can actually get iPad-specific apps. There are some tablet-specific apps for Android too. And on Android you can actually have multiple user accounts on one device. But still, I actually feel like I'm wasting time when I'm using a tablet, because I can get my work done or even my play done a whole lot quicker on a regular computer than I can on a tablet. So I thought that the Surface would be just the right mix of tablet touch interface apps and a computer, and it would be my perfect device. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. So before we get into my total opinion on the device, let's just go over what the device will do for you. Now, this is Microsoft's first ever computer that they've brought to market. Of course, you could say they have the Xbox, but that's a gaming console. I'm talking about an actual computer. The RT came out on October 26th of 2012. The Pro model came out about 3 or 4 months later. And for those of us who love tech, we know the difference between Windows RT and Windows 8. But if you're going to walk into a Best Buy or any other computer store, or even online if you're going to order from Amazon or your favorite online store, if you're not really into tech, you really don't know what Windows RT is all about. Windows RT actually stands for Windows Runtime. It's a very engineering type term. And although they look the same, they're very different operating systems. Windows RT runs on ARM processors, while regular Windows runs on x86-based processors. So basically the difference is an ARM processor is a mobile processor that you'd find in your cell phone, and of course your x86 processors are what you find in laptops and desktops. There are some phones that do have x86-based processors, but they're few and far between. Now, being that they're different operating systems, that doesn't really bother me. They act pretty much the same, except you can't run any of your Windows programs on a Windows RT machine. So the Surface RT runs an NVIDIA Tegra 3 processor, which is actually a GPU and CPU incorporated into a system on a chip. And the CPU is a 1300 megahertz quad-core ARM Cortex-A9. The GPU is a GeForce ULP. It's the same chip that was found in the original Nexus 7. And unfortunately, it's not powerful enough for this operating system. The screen measures 10.6 inches and is 1366 by 768 pixels. So you get 148 pixels per inch. And of course you get the 16 by 9 aspect ratio on this. The screen is nice, it's got great viewing angles, and it supports up to 5 touch points. So you could use all 5 fingers if a program supported it. The battery on this device is a 31.5 watt-hour battery. It supports 802.11 A, B, G, and N, and Bluetooth 4.0. Now, I don't remember the exact amount I spent on this device. I could probably look it up somewhere, but that's pretty much irrelevant now because you can get this device, tablet, and the touch cover for $399 from Microsoft right now. I purchased it for somewhere around $600, so it's gone down in price about $200. Now, for me, I love this touch cover. It works very well, and you can touch type with it, because even though it looks flat, let me actually pull it apart from the tablet itself. Even though it looks flat, you have these indents in there so you can actually feel on your J key and feel on your F key and do regular touch typing on it. It also has an area down here for a touchpad, and under that you actually have 2 mouse buttons. So if you'd expect this not to be that good, it is actually a very good typing cover. The successor to this, the new touch cover, actually is backlit. This one is not. It has a texture to it, so it's not slick or anything like that. And obviously you have your circuits in there. Now the one thing, when I bought my original touch cover, this is not my original touch cover. When you use this tablet, and let's click this in, you don't even have to guide it in because it has magnets. You just, boom, it's in, and you got a very strong bond there. But when I actually use this tablet a lot, I'd use it with the touch cover on all the time. And I'd take the cover and I'd put it all the way to the back when I didn't use it. That actually disengages the touch cover. Unfortunately, there became some separation right there at that point, and I believe that's where there's the contact point that communicates between the actual cover and the device itself. Now, it didn't affect the use of it, but the coating on this, the skin on this, started to separate there. So I called up Microsoft, and they actually replaced it for free. So they sent me a new one, and this is the new one. As you can see, very easy to type on. You get a little sound when you type on it. The only thing that's interesting when you actually use the touch cover versus the virtual keyboard is that on the virtual keyboard, as you know on whatever mobile device that you use, all you have to do is hit Shift once, and it will capitalize that first letter, and then it'll drop back down to the lowercase. When you're working with this, you actually have to use it like a regular keyboard on a regular computer, where you hold the Shift key down if you want a capital. So it's sort of an interesting mindset change that you have to get used to. But once you get used to it, this keyboard is top-notch. I love it. And it's an excellent idea to have basically something that's going to protect your screen without being obnoxious on the back. As you can see, there's a lot of fingerprints back there. So you actually get the integrity or the design of the original device without covering it up. So that's actually really cool. Another thing I really like about this tablet is the kickstand. Now, a lot of people complained that the kickstand would give you an angle that you don't want. I found it very usable. They actually have rectified that with the Surface 2, which actually came out yesterday, where you have a 2-stage kickstand where it'll kick back even further. But if you look at my tablets suck video that I filmed probably 2 years ago, I said that tablets should have a kickstand because you don't always want to hold them. And you don't always want a case, or at least I don't. So let's take a quick tour around the device here. It's a nice size device, and it's not heavy at all. It only weighs 1.5 pounds, or 680 grams. It's made out of magnesium, so it's very durable. The only thing that I did find is that it does chip in areas, and I'm very, very careful with my devices. I don't bang them against anything. So that basically just happened from, I don't know if it was a flaw in the paint on there or what, I don't know. You have a front-facing and a back-facing camera. This is obviously the back-facing camera or rear-facing camera, and it's a 1.2 megapixel camera. I actually have some camera tests on my channel, so if you're interested in looking at those, you can click on the link at the end of this video. But an interesting thing about this camera is that it's actually angled, so when you have the kickstand out and you have the tablet down, the camera will be pointing straight out. So it's actually angled up a little bit. Front-facing camera is also a 1.2 megapixel camera, and it seems to be of decent quality. So let's just quickly jump into the camera app here, if I can find it. There we go. And I really like the Windows 8 operating system. I think it's a definite upgrade to Windows 7, even though I do love Windows 7 and I still use it on some of my machines. So we're going to allow the use of the camera here, and I don't know, I think it's a front camera that's pointing upward. The thing I like about this camera, there's no shutter button, you just tap, boom, picture taken. Now you can change to the rear-facing camera if you'd like. Again, boom, take a picture. Then you also have a video mode where you can do a video. Hello. So it's actually a very nice, simple camera on this device. Now the size of this tablet, it's 10.1 inches long, or 27.5 centimeters. It's 6.77 inches high, or 17.2 centimeters, and the thickness of it is 0.37 inches, or 9.4 millimeters. So it's actually a good sized device for a tablet. As you can see, I can palm it here. But I find that it's just a little bit small when it comes to being a working computer. Now, even though you can't load your favorite Windows programs on this device, it does have a DNA of being a computer. So you can actually print off of this without any problem, just like you would on a laptop. That's one thing that I love about this device. I know a lot of people out there don't need printers, don't use them. I use them for work. I work out of my house, and I do need to use a printer. So it is imperative for me to have a device that I can print off of, and that's one of the reasons I really like the Surface. Now, like I said, I did find that things were a little bit cramped when I used this device for work. So I couldn't really use it for long. So basically, if I was going to use this device, it would have to be a secondary device. I could not use it as a primary computing device just because of the limitations of the size of the machine. Now this device has a full USB port on the side here, and that's very useful. And again, it enabled me to use it for work purposes. But as I mentioned, I did find it was a little bit cramped. When I used the touch cover and I was typing on it, I could do it for short periods of time. But using it over long periods of time really bothered my hands. And that made me realize that if I do want to do work on a machine for a long period of time, I do need a 14-inch machine. I've tried smaller machines, 13 inches, 11.6 inches, 12.1 inches, and I find that personally I need a 14-inch laptop. You might be different, but that's the case for me. So I really was looking for this device to be my primary device, or one of my primary devices where I could get a lot of work done, but I could still, get some apps and whatnot and use it as a tablet. But as I used it more and more, I realized it was less and less useful to me. So it has the functionality of a full computer, but it was a little cramped. It has the ability of apps, but the App Store is sorely lacking. And that's to be expected. Microsoft has a small user base as far as their mobile devices is concerned. And this, what used to be called Metro interface, this tile interface here, they're working towards ubiquity of apps running in this interface here. So if you have an app that runs in these tiles, it will also run on a Windows Pro, an x86 based machine. But once you get into the desktop, which we'll get into in a second, things change. So again, too cramped, the apps just weren't there. And the real killer was, this machine has incredible lag, and there's really no giving you a heads up of when it's going to happen. The machine will just stop. If it's in a situation like this, the live tiles will still be updating, but it won't respond to you. Now, I don't know if it's going to happen in this demonstration because I'm not really demonstrating Windows to you, so I'm not doing a lot of touch on this, but it has happened quite a bit, to the point where I get so frustrated with it that after owning this machine for a year, I've hardly ever used it. I used it a lot when I first got it, and I got so frustrated with how much it lagged on me that I just put it in a drawer and didn't use it for months and months. Another thing that's very strange is that if the screen is not responding, you can go and attach the keyboard and then the keyboard will work, but the screen input does not work. So, like I said, it doesn't happen all the time, but it happens enough to the point where I just get very frustrated and think that had I pulled out a laptop or one of my Chromebooks, I could have gotten what I wanted to get done in half the time. Now, the Surface 2, the successor to this device, launched yesterday. And I actually went to one of the Microsoft stores. Now, in the United States, there are about 86 Microsoft stores. And there are two in Connecticut, one in Danbury and one in Farmington. I've been to the Danbury one before, which is a full-fledged store right across from the Apple store. But I'd never gone to the Farmington one before, so I thought on launch day, I'll check out the Farmington Microsoft Store. So I went there to see if there would be a line for people wanting to buy Surface 2 tablets. And this is what I saw. Now, the mall opened at 10 o'clock. I was there a little bit before 10 o'clock. And when I got to the Microsoft Store, I realized that they had been open since 7 there. The mall actually opens its doors at 6 a.m. for some strange reason. And the stores don't open until 10 a.m. But the Microsoft Store was open at 7, and they were selling Surface tablets since then. And when I talked to one of the representatives, it was a nice girl there, very knowledgeable, she told me they had sold about 35 Surface tablets between 7 and 10 a.m. So I got to play around with the Surface 2, and I didn't find any lag on it at all. And I actually liked the 2-stage kickstand that's on the device. Otherwise, pretty much the same. I know the screen resolution is better on the Surface 2, and the touch cover, actually, like I said, is backlit now. Personally, I touch type. I never look at the keyboard, so a backlit keyboard is very unimportant to me, but I know a lot of people out there like it, so it's now available, and that's cool. I've also tried out the type cover. If you want actual travel on your buttons, you could get the type cover, and that's another excellent cover/keyboard. So it's good to know that they fixed the lag problem, but the problem of this device just being cramped for my needs and the apps not being there is kind of a deal breaker for me. Now, one thing that's very puzzling about this and Microsoft's marketing on this is that it does have a desktop. We're all familiar with this. But there are only 3 things that you could do with it. Number 1, you could open up Office. This device ships with Office, and it's actually nice to have. Number 2, you could use Internet Explorer. Now, your Internet Explorer here looks like your regular Internet Explorer, for those of you who still use it. Right there. But if you go into the Tiles or Metro interface here, this Internet Explorer is different. You have your URL bar at the bottom. If you pull in from the top, that's how you can add a new tab. Very different user interface. The next thing that you could do with this is go into your file system down here. And that's it. That's all you can do in the desktop. So it begs the question, why did they even include it on this device? Certainly there'd be a way to go into your file system from this interface, and certainly they could put Office on here. The regular Internet Explorer, totally unnecessary. If you have a browser here, you don't need a browser on the desktop. Now, on the Surface 2, they actually hid the desktop. So they don't have a little tile that says desktop on there. The only way to enter the desktop is to open up one of the Office programs, or to hit the Windows key and then hit D, which I can do here as well. So Microsoft is fully aware that this is an unnecessary addition to the RT tablet. It's definitely a necessary piece of a Windows Pro device because you can actually use the desktop and you can install your programs onto it if you want, your legacy programs, in addition to having your Metro or tile-based programs. Now, the speakers on this device are not very loud. If I listen to anything or do anything with this that requires sound, I crank the speakers all the way up, and it's still not that loud. Now, one thing on tablets, it doesn't matter if it's an Apple device, an Android device, or a Windows device. There's one thing I despise on all of them, and that's the home button. So invariably, I'll be using the device, and then by mistake, I hit the home button. So let's say I'm in the camera here, I'm going to take a picture, and then I'm lining it up, and then, oh, look at that, hit the home button, I'm back at the home screen where I don't want to be. So I don't like home buttons, especially on the bezel. You know, the bezel is there to hold on to. You can't just hold on to a screen without a bezel. And that's one of the things I don't understand about the iPad Air. They lessen the bezels on the side, and invariably you're going to, touch the screen, which is something you don't want to do. So my advice would be keep home buttons off the bezel. Keep anything off of the bezel. It's meant for your fingers. Now, one of the things I like about this device is that it actually has a magnetic power cord. Those of you who have Mac computers are familiar with this. Strangely enough, Apple doesn't have this technology built into their iPads or even iPhones, which is weird. But all you do is you line this up with the power port on this, and there you go. Magnetizes. And the nice thing about this is that it works either way. Now this tablet actually offers expandable memory. So hidden beneath the kickstand here is a slot over here for a micro SD card. Now one of the positives about Windows RT is that there are no viruses written for Windows RT. So you don't have to worry about running an antivirus on this device, which is a definite plus. So that's the Microsoft Surface RT, the original one. And I gotta say, I like a lot of the elements. I love the kickstand. I love this touch cover. I like the camera app. I actually like Windows 8, or the version of Windows 8 on this device. Speaking of which, Windows 8.1 came out, and I still haven't gotten the update on this device here. But I like a lot of this device. I like that it has a full-sized USB port on the tablet itself, which is very rare. The build quality is excellent. The screen is nice, even though, like I said, there are higher resolution screens out there. There's a lot to like about the tablet. Unfortunately, there's a lot of deal breakers on it too. Most importantly of which is the lag problem. It is so frustrating. I can't stress that enough. The lag on this device is so frustrating that I cannot recommend anybody buy this device. The fact about the apps lacking, that's a personal preference thing, and that will get better with time. The fact that I find this cramped, again, a personal preference thing. You might find it not cramped. But the fact that this device lags will annoy everybody. So if you're going to buy a Surface RT, or now what it's called Surface 2, go with the Surface 2. Do not buy this device. And strangely enough, I don't have to do a lot of convincing to tell people that, because no one was really buying it anyway. Microsoft took a $900 million loss because they didn't sell the Surface RT tablets that they have in inventory. That's why they're selling it at such a deep discount, and you can still find them at Microsoft stores today. But if you value your time, if you value a user experience, do not get this device, because the lag will sneak up on you out of nowhere. You'll think the device is very responsive, it works perfectly, and then all of a sudden, boom, it just doesn't do anything. And there are no cues to tell you, okay, it stopped, because the live tiles will still keep updating, so it looks like it's still working, but it's not. It doesn't accept the touch interface. And again, plugging in the keyboard sometimes fixes it, which is very odd. But that's going to do it for this video. If you have any questions or comments, please post them down below. If you like what you see, please subscribe. And as always, if you want to help out my channel, give me a thumbs up or favorite this video. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.